So,
So,
this is the Paradise Square that is now the end of the film,
Yeah.
stretched for the... Do you think they're going to put this back? Do you think?
I don't know. I think they strike out everything because you know I'm sad about this,
Yeah,
but at the same time maybe it's better. I don't want to somebody.
People, yeah.
Other people can hear shoot it before.
Yeah.
The film can.
It's too bad because this.
Yes, it's too bad.
Right now, what you're looking at, I guess we're looking at the end of the picture,
Yeah.
in a sense. This is the end scene. That's the old brewery, what remains of it after the draft riot. And that was Satan's Circus over there, the Native American hangout, so to speak. There's the old Don Whiskerando barber shop that you built. These rock formations and everything are based on real photographs of the period.
Yes, because once Manhattan was full of rocks, and then they take down everything, they put everything, they make everything flat. That's what I saw on the research you sent me.
And so a lot of these buildings are based on actual, of course the old brewery is based on the actual engravings and even the buildings next to it.
Yes. More or less everything, it's very close
to what it was,
Yes.
And I think even the relationship of Paradise Square to the water is real too.
Yes, it's real. Now it just was a couple of blocks less in the reality. This is 3 blocks. In the reality, was five blocks.
Okay. And the 5 Points is down there. Do we go down there?
Yes, of course.
That's the 5 Points, yeah.
Maybe here. And then the Bernard building.
Oh, the burned building, yes, yeah.
The first thing.
The first burned one, yeah.
You remember when you talked about this?
Yeah, years ago.
Years ago when we were in Troy.
In Troy, New York, that's right, because we saw the photograph.
At the mayor,
yes,
at the mayor office.
The mayor's office of Troy. We saw the photograph of a number of burned buildings that had icicles streaming off of them, frozen. And I realized that would be great for Gangs of New York if it ever got made. And that became the building over there.
Yeah. And then you said me,
and then we put
Dante, remember this?
Yes.
This picture. This will be the first shot in Gangs of New York.
Right.
This
the snow.
I remember very well.
And
yes.
And we did put the icicles on this house, and all the guys came out of it. Oh, the Native Americans came out. The Native Americans being the Anglos, not American Indians.
Yeah.
Well, that's the burned building that was covered with ice. The beginning of the film.
This is
This is it. This is the 5 Points here. This is the main one right here.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
And so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are all as accurate as possible.
This was Anthony Street.
This was Anthony Street, Orange Street. You know, the problem is that they kept changing the names of the streets from 1840s to 1850s to 1860. Yeah. So I think there are a few. The Mulberry Street is one of them. Baxter, Worth, the names of the streets changed, so it was constantly changing. But this is the main area of the 5 Points. Some of these buildings, like this building over here, this also is from a photograph.
Yes.
I think of Jacob Riis.
Yes, exactly.
But that's from the 1870s, so 1860s, something like that. The rock and the way the fence is formed, all that sort of thing.
Accurate.
This is totally accurate.
Totally accurate.
Yeah. And over here, there was an alley here that was a famous Jacob Riis photograph.
Yes.
That actually was one of the inspirations for the movie when I first saw that photograph. But you know, I read the book, The Gangs of New York, the Herbert Asbury book, back in 1970. The first day, January 1st, 1970, found it in somebody's house. Read the whole thing. That's 31 years ago.
31 years ago.
Yeah, it was 31 years ago. And then, you know, I saw the pictures of Jacob Riis, but of course they were of a later period. But this alleyway here is a direct replication, as best we can, of Robber's Roost.
Yes.
It was called Robber's Roost or Mulberry Bend. I'm not quite sure. One of the two.
There was a lot of guys here.
A lot of guys standing this way.
Stand this way.
With guns.
And see
a few people out here, people up here. We've used it a few times in the picture,
yes.
and it goes all the way in here.
Yes, I remember also other was like
People standing here, people looking out the windows.
Yes.
And clotheslines and things here. In 1977 or 78, we did a double truck ad in Hollywood Reporter and Variety. It was literally the picture of this alley.
This
alley. Yeah. Announcing the production soon, but that was 1977.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So where should we go now?
Maybe at the
harbor. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this was all of this too. That over there, that was added. That was also from a photograph. That little shack, right there with the roof. Mm-hmm. That way, I remember roofs like that in the Lower East Side, stemming, I think, from the middle of the 19th century. They were still there.
They're still there?
No, not anymore, but in 1954, 55, they were there. One was a chicken market.
Oh.
Live chickens.
Oh, yeah, live chicken.
The Waterfront Hotel, right here on the left.
Yes.
Quinlan's.
Quinlan's. Okay. Very comfortable.
Very, yes. Yeah, no.
Ah.
These were our ships. The Sportsman's Hall, where we had a prize fight going on.
Over there we put the
blue screen. Yeah,
yes.
right behind here.
Yeah. So we want to walk that
this
side,
way. Yeah.
just, and then it's finished here. And this.
Now we're back to the 5 points, and the church you made down there. It has elements of the first Catholic cathedral in New York, which was St. Patrick's on Mott Street, which was my church when I was growing up. Certain ideas are taken for that church, from that church for this one. The interior, a few other things, but smaller. And but the action that takes place around the church is based on a real event, trouble between Catholics and Protestants in New York in 1840s and 50s.
Do you remember, Martin, the very beginning from
nothing.
Venice?
It's nothing.
Came from Venice.
We stopped, there was nothing here. It was all flat.
Yeah, all flat. Okay.
This is the interior of the old brewery, which was actually one of this was the main building in the 5 points. However, by the time our picture, the main story in our picture begins, 1860, the old brewery has been changed into a mission house because of the nature of it was so notorious that they couldn't let it go on the way it was, and even the difficulties with the police forces and the firemen, all that sort of thing. Everything had to. People had to stop and take notice about what was going on in the old brewery. It was an old brewery, I believe. It was a brewery in the late 18th century,
yeah, exactly.
and then was abandoned, and it became a place where people just came in and lived.
Yeah.
A lot of the poor people, the immigrants, and it also became a kind of hideout for kind of the underworld, criminals of the underworld, kind of lowlife in a way. And they had Murderer's Alley and all sorts of special names to these little nooks and crannies in the old brewery.
Yeah. The problem when we built this was when we designed this was because we don't have had any research for the interior. A lot of many illustrations for the exterior.
The exterior, no one ever
for the interior, nothing. So I remember when I showed you the Diderot encyclopedia with the old brewery and that period.
Yeah.
Now we take an inspiration from the Diderot. Yes, and then so we rebuilt like was a brewery.
Yeah,
and
then we added that almost like a cutaway of different rooms in the brewery.
Yeah,
almost like literally a slice of a cake in a way.
Exactly.
So we could look at all these rooms in the brewery where people were existing, like not really living, but existing in them. Each little room had different things going on in it. I think, and so between that and the
Yeah, the catwalks, also the
people living down
tunnels,
below.
Yes, down below.
The tunnels below that, it became, you know, something a lot of fun to work on.
It's like an inferno.
Like an inferno is right,
Yeah.
exactly. Now down here, we had this spiral staircase down here is where they come out from under the tunnels, from the underground of New York, in the first part of the film, 1846 section. And at that point, 1846, they come through the underground here, up into the basement, and then up the stairs here and out the door to fight with the natives. At that point, it was the height of the old brewery, 1846, and we show at that point all the people living in these, or existing in these, or barely existing in these little cubicles up there. And when Amsterdam, who's Leo DiCaprio, when he comes back in 1860, by that point, it's being turned into a mission. And so the interior is pretty much the same, but it's used for different purposes then.
Just a little bit more clean.
Just a little clean, that's not much.
Fantastic was the ball.
Oh, the dance we had in here, yeah, that the Reverend Raleigh threw, that he held.
In few level downstairs.
The dance below and above, yeah.
Well, it was fantastic with all the ship lanterns.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really great. Full of atmosphere.
Yeah. But the brewery was this big. There was never really any engraving or really precise description of what the interior looked like.
Yeah.
If anything, we knew that there were vats still in there, like in these three up here and below.
But what Luc Sante said, now we have a documentation.
Now we have documentation.
Yes, now we see this movie. We know I was inside.
The way they describe what was going on in the brewery, it's all these little nooks and crannies and people living in all these like homeless people today in New York and around the world. This is exactly. It's always been a similar situation. Should we go into Satan's Circus or?
Yeah.
Okay. If you come this way, it was very careful though.
Okay. Now here it's a mess.
It's a little bit of a mess, yeah. Here's where Bill used to hang out, Bill the Butcher, right about here. Played cards here. Surveyed his sort of kingdom from here. The upstairs, and they had a few rooms upstairs. There was always a guard here for him. And as I say, the Native Americans in this film are not Native American Indians. They are what they consider the real Americans. They consider themselves to be. That is Anglo-Dutch, whatever mixture that arrived. Yeah, Anglo-Dutch, I think, and whatever mixture arrived in the 17th century up to through the Revolution up to the War of 1812. You know, and they were against the heavy immigration of the Irish and that sort of thing. So this is the bar of the Satan Circus. Again, utilizing the fact that they didn't really plan the city very much, so and down there in certain areas, so that buildings were placed within rock formations, tree trunks, tree roots would come through the walls, and that sort of thing. And it all became part of where they were, and they kept, I guess, adding on to this particular building of the Satan Circus. The ceiling's very low, and down below, if you come here, down below was a pit for which they would bet upon. They bet on dogs attacking rats. It was a rat baiting, I guess it was called, or you know. They make a lot of money on that. There was a champion dog named Towser. Towser was the champion at the time. He was a little terrier, and we showed that only once in the film, I think. But here's the entrance to Satan Circus back here.
And also the butchery.
And over here's the butchering area where they had all the meat.
Yeah. Hanging, yes, on the oak. Yes. Here we have the refrigerator.
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 You mean the ice and all that?
Meat,
for the ice, yeah. Because there was no...
This is a gas lamp with the gas here, with the flames.
Yeah. But the ceiling, what we did with the ceiling was the light in the daytime would shine through in a line pattern, sort of a crisscross pattern, because the light would just shine right through from above. That was a pretty interesting place. A lot will go on in here. And this wasn't necessarily based on any accurate this is more fantasized in a way, but basically the way I always felt it was that it came out of necessity.
Yeah.
You understand? Like they have these places. They start with a bar, and they have the wall, the rock wall, but they make another room over here, then eventually make it bigger, and then eventually it just became.
This
became
is
the
very
hangout.
interesting because it looks like a skeleton hand.
That's the tree roots.
Yeah.
All right, now over here, should we go to the pagoda?
Yes.
Okay. The pagoda is here. This way, gentlemen. This is the set for Sparrow's Chinese Pagoda, and I think it was based on the name of a real place. Again, in the 1870s, a little later, but we moved it up, and it probably of all the sets, it's the most. In a way, is the one that takes the most liberties, the most goes more into a fantasy situation.
Because the input was for the movie you
sent
me was Shanghai Gesture.
The Shanghai Gesture, Joseph von Sternberg film. The sets for that film sort of inspired the look of this place. And this place is used by in the film. The place is run in a sense by the Bill the Butcher and the Native American community. But they had the Chinese working for them. And the Chinese were not a very big component of the population at that time in New York. But they were here. And this is sort of based on the von Sternberg film, but very different.
Also because
very different purpose.
30, no? Was it
1946, 1947, I think, 47 maybe. I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but the layout was more or
layout
less
similar.
Similar. Yeah.
Only theirs was circular, ours is semicircle, and we have a stage here in which there's some performances from time to time. Bill the Butcher is very good at knife throwing, and he puts on a little show one night at a special celebration here, throwing knives.
The cage.
Cages, yeah. They raffle off whatever they can put in the cages. Or bidding, really, auction off anybody they could put in the cages, I think. Again, this is by this point in the story, it's more, I don't know, we create our own world, right? You create your own, create our own world of the spirit of old New York, in a way, of a New York that not many people know about.
Yes.
You know, that's for sure.
And then we have also the opium den.
Oh, the opium den, yes.
Yeah.
We only have a few scenes in this, a couple of scenes, that's all, but this is basically it. Yeah. This is where the Native Americans, at one point during an election scene, they come and they roust out some voters.
Yeah.
Even though they're drugged, it didn't matter. They just tell them who to vote for. And that was a popular pastime.
They would cap people,
wake people up and take them out and have them vote for their candidate. Careful here.
I love this.
Yeah, this is beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. And there's also upstairs rooms in this place that Bill hangs out in sometimes. There's a brothel, brothel upstairs, that sort of thing.
Entertainment place.
Yeah. All kinds of shows. I mean,
also because we have the Peking opera, all the
we had some opera, Chinese opera,
Chinese opera. Yes.
Acrobats. Bill's the big thing is Bill's knife performance that he does with Jenny here at the big event, in which they celebrate a native victory. Yeah. But in any event, really, all of this is meant to be a spirit of old New York, and a spirit of the people who lived there at the time. Of course, not necessarily people that we are taught about in history classes in school, but the working classes and the poor classes and the underworld, really. And politicians, too, because we have Tammany Hall on Broadway. Yeah. This is the street that we made up for Broadway, right? So on Broadway, here's the Broadway
omnibus.
The omnibus, based on the real one at the time. This is a scene that takes place inside and outside of it at one point. This is what's left of P.T. Barnum's American Museum, pretty much based on the actual facade. The museum did burn at one point at that period. And Apollo Hall right across the way here.
This one, yes.
This is all accurate, isn't it?
Yeah, yes.
This is pretty much accurate of the period.
Everything is accurate.
Lampposts, also the width of the street, I think.
Yes,
It's
the
pretty
width of the street is accurate. It's,
You know.
well,
And we get down here further and we have Metamora Hose Company. That was one of the fire departments.
yeah, fire department.
There was no real fire department in New York at the time. It was a series of gangs of firemen. After the Civil War is when they established a real fire department with horses.
Yeah.
Up to that point, the men would run with the fire engines, with the machines. But over here's the Tribune, Horace Greeley's newspaper. This was a recruiting office, which was later burned in
Yeah,
the film.
This one.
Right here. 30,000 volunteers wanted, recruiting for the Civil War.
This was the board.
Oh, this is the Board of Elections, where they were doing some, where they were gathering up the voters to vote. In some cases, not a very legal way. And then we sort of compress certain things here, which is a Metropolitan Police District Station. There were also the Municipal Police. There were two police forces at the time. These sets also have interiors. Tammany Hall is an interior. Tweed's office you can look out from. It's from the first floor.
The kitchen.
The kitchen is up there, Tweed's, the Tammany Hall kitchen.
And also on the end we put the blue screen for make this.
A blue screen at the end here. And over here was, we ran into
An armory.
an armory, actually. That's built like, based on some of the armories in New York, and one on Park Avenue,
Yes.
on 23rd Street, I think it is, and there's one up in the 60s.
And then here was the exterior of the.
This is an exterior of a mansion of the upper classes. We call it the Skemmerhorn Mansion, but it was attacked during the riots and has been torn apart. This is as far as we got with Broadway. But the Broadway sort of represents the other side of life in New York.
Yes.
You know, the more middle class and upper class side.